Ever crack open a classic edition and kind of wonder, like, what makes this book a game changer? Well, that's what we're going to find out.
We
We've
have.
got a stack of these heavy hitters, right?
Yeah.
Perception, memory, child development.
A big old brain feast.
It's a feast.
Mm-hmm.
But today, we're tackling how we see the world with James J. Gibson's The Ecological Approach to Visual Perception. Our guidebook, right here.
And trust me, when these classics get their title, it's because they flipped their whole field on its head. Made everyone rethink the basic.
Okay, so Gibson's about to rock my world with how vision really works.
Mind twist?
I am in. But ecological approach, that makes me think, like, birds migrating, not eyeballs.
Right. But Gibson, he was radically arguing you can't separate vision from the environment it evolved in. Forget dissecting eyeballs in some lab. He wanted to understand how we see while living out in the world.
So less about, like, the mechanics of the eye, more about, like, the experience, like me moving through a busy street, trying not to trip on the curb, but also spotting my friend waving from across the way. All that at once.
Exactly. He called out traditional research for focusing on, he called it aperture vision, like we're all just staring through a pinhole.
Through a straw, almost.
Yeah, and that misses the point of having eyes that dart around, heads that turn, bodies that actually navigate a dynamic world.
It's like trying to understand a whole song, but you're only allowed to listen to the drummer.
Oh, okay.
And you're in a soundproof booth, no less. You miss the melody, the harmony, the feeling the music is supposed to evoke.
And Gibson would say they were missing the feeling of seeing. That our eyes, they aren't cameras just passively recording. We're participants, seeking out information to move through a world that's not just random stuff.
All right, color me intrigued. But then he takes it a step further, right? Because Gibson challenges this basic idea that we even see objects in space. Instead, he's all about surfaces. He uses words like sheets, fissures, convexities.
It's like
he invented his own geometry of perception or something.
he throws a curveball with our everyday language, it's true. But it's actually tapping into something I think deeply intuitive about how we actually experience the world. Think about it. When you're walking down the street, you're not like calculating distances to every object, are you?
No, it's more like step here to avoid that puddle, then up onto the curb.
Exactly. You're navigating a world of walkable surfaces, avoiding drop-offs, not mentally mapping objects in some void. And that changes how we perceive what's around us.
So instead of a world of, like, distinct objects, it's more like we're navigating this landscape of possibilities for action.
Okay.
Like that coffee mug on your desk. You don't just see it, right?
Right.
You instantly get that it's there to be grasped, lifted, sipped from.
You got it. That's Gibson's affordances in a nutshell.
Okay.
The world isn't just telling us what things are, but what we can do with them. And it's not like a thought process even. It's built into how we perceive.
Which I guess explains why a toddler can wreak havoc in a room full of supposedly child-proofed objects.
Totally.
They're like little affordance detecting machines.
They are. Think about how babies learn to crawl, walk, climb. They're not doing physics calculations in their heads.
Right.
They're directly perceiving which surfaces are stable, which gaps are passable, all through experience, interacting with the environment.
Okay. See, now I'm starting to see the world in a whole new light, I gotta say. But Gibson, he didn't stop there, did he? He had this other really radical idea. And it's this. That we can perceive things that are actually hidden from view. Now, I'm not talking about ESP here.
Sure.
I mean, like, how do we see what's behind something else?
Right. It sounds like we're giving humans superpowers.
Yeah.
But Gibson was challenging this view, this traditional view, that perception's limited to only what's directly stimulating our senses at this exact moment.
Okay. Yep.
He was arguing that the structure of the environment itself, it provides enough information to perceive what's hidden, as long as we're moving through it.
So it's like our brains are filling in the blanks based on what we know about the world already.
That's part of it. But Gibson goes deeper. He talks about the occluding edge, the line where one surface disappears behind another. So he argued that this edge, it itself gives us clues about that hidden surface, letting us perceive how it continues.
Okay, can you give me a concrete example? Because I'm having a little trouble picturing this.
Sure. Imagine you're walking down the street and you see a car, but it's partially hidden by a tree.
Yeah.
You don't assume the car just magically ends where that tree trunk begins, right?
Right.
You perceive it as a whole object, even though you can't see all of it.
Ah, okay. So that edge where the car disappears behind the tree, it's not just like a visual barrier. It actually tells us something about what's on the other side.
Precisely. Your brain is using the shape, the angle of that occluding edge, combined with your experience of how cars are usually structured, to basically see through that visual interruption.
Wow. It's like our brains are constantly building this 360-degree model of the world, even when we're only seeing like a fraction of it at any given time.
And that's crucial for navigating a world that's moving, right?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine trying to cross a busy street if you could only see what was directly in front of you at any given moment.
Yeah, you'd be a sitting duck.
You would.
It's like our peripheral vision, but on a cognitive level almost.
Hmm.
We're aware of the car, even when it's partially hidden, and that awareness changes how we act.
Exactly. And it highlights how deeply intertwined perception and action are. We don't just passively observe the world, we actively engage with it. And those perceptions are shaped by our need to move through it, interact with our surroundings.
This is really blowing my mind, but we haven't even touched on the other books in this stack. We've got Baddeley on memory, Bishop on language development in children, a whole bunch of stuff on cognitive psychology. It's like a buffet of brainy goodness here.
I know. It is tempting to pull all those threads. But, we got to save some brain food for next time.
Right.
Today, it's all about Gibson's legacy. And these insights about perception, this idea of affordances, it's popping up everywhere now, don't you think? It's not just academic stuff anymore.
Oh, absolutely. Think about something as common as website design.
Oh, okay, yeah. Ever been on a site where the buttons are unclear, the menus are confusing, and you just want to launch your laptop across the room?
Oh, tell me you haven't. I mean, who hasn't encountered one of those design disasters? It's like the digital equivalent of a door with a push sign that you have to pull to open.
And it all comes back to Gibson, right? If those designers, if they don't consider how we perceive affordances, how we
Mhm.
see possibilities for action, they end up with these interfaces that are fighting our natural instincts.
Hmm.
Good design, on the other hand, it makes it obvious what's clickable, scrollable, tappable, just by how it looks.
Yeah, it's like the best technology. It almost feels like an extension of your own intuition.
Right.
You don't even think about it, you just do.
Exactly. And it goes beyond websites. Think about virtual reality, robotics, even just how we design physical spaces like classrooms, cities, streets. Understanding how people perceive those possibilities for action. It's crucial for creating environments that are just intuitive,
Mhm.
efficient, even enjoyable to be in.
So Gibson's legacy, it isn't just about like understanding how vision works in our heads. It's about using that knowledge to design a better world, online and offline. It's about making things make sense.
Precisely. And when you look at those other books in this stack, like Baddeley on memory, Bishop on language development, they all sort of tie into this idea that we're shaped by our interactions with the world. Our brains are constantly adapting, evolving in response to the environment, the information we encounter, the actions we take.
It's like we're all players in this giant feedback loop, constantly influencing and being influenced by the world around us. Which leads to a pretty big question, maybe. If our environments are constantly shaping us, what kind of world do we want to create?
Now, that is the million-dollar question, and it's one that should be at the forefront of every designer's mind, every architect, policymaker, parent, educator, because the affordances we build into the world, those are going to shape the perceptions and the actions of, well, generations to come.
So understanding perception, it isn't just about knowing how our brains work. It's about taking responsibility for the kind of like sensory landscape we're all navigating together. That's a pretty profound takeaway from a stack of classic edition texts, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and it reminds us that even the densest scientific topics, they have real-world implications. Our deep dive into Gibson here, it wasn't just about one guy's theory of vision. It was about understanding our place in the world and the power we have to shape it. One perception, one action at a time.
It's been an eye-opening journey, to say the least. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the classics of perception and cognition. Join us next time, and we'll delve into another fascinating corner of the mind. We'll uncover more of these hidden gems of knowledge that shape who we are.